Well, hi everyone. Thank you for coming to our webinar today. I'm George Privateer with Johnson Plastics Plus, and we've got a great webinar for you today. You're going to love this. If you're looking to do full color graphics, so heat transfer, DTF, and you're not sure which one to go with, we've got an expert in the building today who's going to be helping us out. And we'll have Craig Spooner from Uninet joining us here in just a moment. He's going to walk you through all the similarities and differences between heat transfer and direct-to-film printing and some of the other options that are available to you. You're going to love hearing from Craig. He's got a great presentation. We'll show you some samples. It's going to be a great webinar. Before we begin, though, if you have any questions during the webinar, please be sure to ask those to us. You will see a little questions pop out on your control panel for the webinar. You can ask the questions in there, type them in. We've got some folks who will be answering some of those offline, and we'll also answer some, or have Craig answer some during the webinar as well. We will be using a couple different cameras. You'll see me, you'll see Craig, you'll see Craig's presentation. If you're on a computer, those should just pop up normally, but if you're on a mobile device, like a cell phone, iPhone, or an iPad, or a tablet, you may need to swipe up and down to switch between those cameras today. So, with all that being said, let's bring on Craig. Craig, if you're there, there he is. It's Craig Spooner, Director of Sales for Uninet. Craig's going to be sharing his knowledge with us today about DTF, heat transfer, the similarities, the differences, and what customers should be looking for if they want to get into that personalization. Right, Craig?
Yes, sir.
So very good. I'm going to make Craig our presenter because you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from Craig. So let me make Craig our presenter real quick so he can share with us his PowerPoint. There you go, Craig. I think you may have control there. And if I see Craig's PowerPoint pop up.
That's not the screen we want. We want this one. Okay.
There we go. Okay, so again, folks, if you have questions, ask those. We'll bop in and ask those of Craig during the webinar today. But with all that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Craig and let him have at it and talk about the battle of the transfers.
Very good. I'm just going to stop sharing my webcam so we can focus on the PowerPoint. My name is Craig Spooner. I'm the Director of Sales here at Uninet. I've been with the company, I can't believe I'm saying it, I've been with the company 19 years, started in 2004. And with any luck, maybe I'll retire from here as well. So we're going to go through some of the types of technologies and focus on white toner printing and DTF. And as George said, he'll take questions and feel free to interrupt me as we're going if there's any questions that come up. So just a quick overview of what we're going to go through. Is heat transfer printing right for your business? We're going to compare technologies, and there's going to be a nice first screen there that I'll go through. Why do we need white toner? A comparison of all the iColor printers and the differences between them. Overview and comparison of the transfer papers. What is a RIP and why do I need it? What is Smart Cut? Some tips and tricks for white toner transfers, and then we'll get into our label printer and DTF overview as well. So Uninet at a glance, we offer a full suite of products, services, consumables. So we not only sell the printers and equipment, but we have all the toner and consumables available, including specialty toners, which I'll get into, all of our papers, the software, customer support, service, and of course, technical support as well. So we're never going to send you somewhere else when you buy your printer from here and your heat press from there and your paper from a third party. Everything is in our ecosystem, and it allows us to support the customer in that way as well. An analysis of different types of printing technologies, and of course, this is going to be leaning towards white toner. However, I will always lead with white toner for a couple of reasons. With white toner printers, as opposed to ink-based systems, these are toner-based systems, which means you're really not going to have any maintenance associated with the printer, really at all. You can leave the machine off for a year. Your first page out is going to be perfect. There's no priming heads. There's no clogging or anything like that with laser or LED technologies. If you have a laser printer at home, a HP, Lexmark, Samsung, whatever, you know that you really don't have to do anything with those machines to get them to start. With white toner printing, with garments, there's no need to pre-treat. You can print and press onto cotton, poly, and all different types of fabrics within that range without pre-treating at all. The only thing that you have to pay attention to is the heat from the heat press. You don't want something to scorch, and you have a lot of flexibility in terms of how the heat is applied. The transfers are very durable. The machines themselves and the process is very easy, especially for on-demand one-offs in terms of white toner printing. And with iColor, and I'll get into this a little bit more in other slides, we offer a lot of specialty toner options where you can convert your printer from a white toner printer into a sublimation printer and then back to a fluorescent printer and printing gold and silver and things like that. And in addition to all of the transfer printing, we also offer label media to print labels and stickers, magnetic media, window cling, banners for some of our machines, and more. When you talk about DTG and DTF, they're very similar in the way that they operate, and they're both ink-based systems. Ink heads must have regular use and maintenance, or you're going to have problems. You have to do a nozzle check probably every day. You want to use these machines every day to every other day. Otherwise, they can clog and lead to other issues. So it's something that you have to really think about if you're going to dive into DTG or DTF. Do you want to be dealing with the maintenance? Some people say yes, and there are pros there, and some people say no, I don't want to deal with it. I might be an occasional user, and that's where white toner might be better. Specifically on DTG, you have to pre-treat your garments, and they're limited to cotton. Typically, these machines are pretty expensive, and you print directly to the substrate, leaving you with a limited flexibility. Whereas with white toner, you can print not only onto garments and textiles, but hard surfaces, pretty much anything that will survive the heat of a heat press. And then you have other options with that, like water slide, where you don't even need heat at all. Jumping back to DTG, typically it's a very slow type of printing, 6 to 8 minutes a shirt, but the pros of DTG is you really do get a high quality and durable end result, and fades are handled very well. With white toner printing, fades are not handled well in terms of being able to limit the amount of toner that's on the page. Fades are handled through rasterization, and that's where you have small dots growing into larger dots that eventually fade out. That's how we handle fades through rasterization. With direct to film, again, you have the maintenance with ink. Typically, the auto machines are expensive. It could be, $15,000, $20,000 and up for automated systems. Although there are less expensive systems that Uninet offers that I'll get into, starting at $4,000. Instead of a to B marry that we all might be familiar with white toner, where you print on a transfer sheet and marry to an adhesive sheet, in the case of DTF, you are taking your printed sheet while it's still wet with ink within the first 10 or 15 minutes of being printed, and you're either manually dipping it into powder and then curing it for 2 minutes in a heat station, or it's going through an automated system where the powder is applied, vibrated off, and then heated all at once. So there's an adhesive one way or the other. There is potentially hazardous fumes that are associated with DTF, so you do need to have proper ventilation and just to get all that stuff out of the air. And typically DTF is limited to textiles, although I have tried some things onto wood and things like that. They do work, but all of that extra stuff has to be tested. The pros of DTF is that you get a very, very stretchable and durable result. In fact, I've stretched these so hard that I've ripped the shirt before the transfer cracked. So one of the biggest pros of DTF is that it is super, super stretchy. It's also got a very low cost per page. Typically with your automated systems, you could be as low as 65, 70 cents per A3 sheet, and that's ink, not the transfer paper. And automated systems are good for batch printing. So a big fact with DTF is that a lot of users, probably about 50% of the users of DTF, especially with the automated systems, tend to not make their own shirts. They are outsourcing to people who want the transfers. And so it might cost you 65 cents to 75 cents a square foot, and then they go out and sell it for $7 or $8 a square foot. So it's a big business selling transfers. With standalone dye sublimation printers, such as the Sawgrass, again, you're dealing with your typical ink delivery systems where you could get clogging and have to flush out the ink head if due to lack of use. With dye sublimation, you're limited to polyester and light colored fabrics. The darker you go on your fabric, the more vibrancy you lose when you're dealing with that, because there's no white ink and there's no adhesive to block out the color of the shirt. You're typically getting 2 minutes per page on printing, and you have to use special paper with something like a Sawgrass. But it is ideal for full coverage printing because you don't have any kind of cracking issues at all, because what happens is the print turns into a gas when it's heated, and the gas impregnates itself inside of the fabric or the substrate, the polyester coated substrate, so that you feel nothing. So if you have a very full coverage type of image and it's ideal for a white shirt, a polyester shirt, then dye sublimation is the way to go. And it's a very, very easy application as well. With vinyl cutting, it's a lot of people start off with vinyl cutting. It's a very manual process, but it's ideal for simple designs and lettering, and it's very inexpensive supplies on that. But it's no resolution. It's basically one color, and it can peel after a few washes. And of course, with the weeding, it's a very, very slow process. With screen printing, I mean, everybody knows about screen printing, but it's not for short runs. It's for, you know, a lot of shirts, a lot of the same shirts. It's typically low resolution, although there are some tricks of the trade to get you a little bit higher resolution with mixing colors and things like that. But you have to make a screen for every color. It's very messy, but again, low cost, very accurate color matching, and a high quality, durable result at the end. Do we have any questions on any of these technologies? We could always come back to it. If not, I'll continue.
I think we're good for the moment, Craig. I know you were talking about some of those. When you have a moment, would you touch on some of the heat transfer printers that also include sublimation, and maybe some of the pros and cons of that, including both of those technologies together?
You mean as far as iColor is concerned with swapping with sublimation? Yes, I'm going to get into that. Yes.
Yep.
Stand by.
Thanks.
So what I say is the answer is white toner, because you're able to offer on-demand printing at a premium price. You can print on virtually any substrate, regardless of material or color. There's no order quantities. You could do 1 shirt, you could do 50 shirts. It doesn't matter. It just depends on how much time you have and how many heat presses you have. Of course, if you have 1 heat press, it's going to take longer than 2 or 3. No per charge, no setup fees, no color charges. And you basically could create anything that you can press onto. And it's a good complement for screen printing. So let's say you had a baseball team and you got the screen print of the team name on every shirt, but you had to put a unique number on each shirt. You could do kind of mixed media for that and have the major, the repeating part done with the screen print, but the unique part of it done with the white toner printing. And especially if you own a screen print shop and you just did 200 shirts, and you clean all the screens and somebody comes back and says, I need 2 more shirts. White toner could be a very good answer to those just in time type of emergency orders as well. Of course, no weeding with any of these technologies either. That goes with DTF and white toner printing. And with the white toner printers, there's no maintenance because it's not ink, it's toner. And like I said, you have other options with some of our printers too. Our larger printers can print on banners. They all could do window cling, magnetic media, label and sticker media, and more. Target markets, pretty much anything. Screen printers, franchise printing locations, t-shirt, souvenir shops that you see everywhere when you're on vacation, mall kiosks, people involved with Etsy, personalization, awards, trophies, uniform companies. I mean, there's really no limit to who this can cater to and who you can pitch to if you're a reseller. In fact, there are a lot of trophy and award companies out there that use our hard surface paper to print and press onto glass and acrylic and metal and things like that. And they can also use our sublimation, which I'll get into in a second, to print and press onto sublimated coated or polyester coated material as well. So we talk about why white toner is important. So if you took a regular CMYK printer, like an HP printer, you're going to be largely unsuccessful. The reason why, I'm going to just go to number 2 first, because when you print with white, white actually is printed was what we call an overprint. So what happens within our RIP program is everything is reversed mirror, and what happens is color is laid down and white is laid down on top, all in one pass. Now, the reason why we put white on top of color is because sometimes there's not enough toner density for it to sufficiently grab onto the adhesive or B sheet of your 2-step media. So if you have a cyan or a yellow or just light colors in general, you need to flood that a little bit more to give it a little bit more density so that it can sufficiently grab onto all parts of the B sheet. So it fills the density in so that it will have a complete marry, because a lot of times if you have lighter colors without white on top, you'll miss those parts when you pull the sheets apart. Question, George?
Yeah, we got a few questions, and I wanted to know if you wanted to show some of our samples here while we're talking about some of the white toner stuff. We could show a few of the examples that we have, but we did have a question. It says, for white toner printing, are there newer sheets available that allow for more stretch? So I don't know if you can speak to that, Craig?
Yes, I'm going to get into some of our different types of transfer paper, but I will tell you that our Select Ultra Bright product has a very good stretch capability. You know, if you need extra stretch, I highly suggest the Select Ultra Bright. It also leaves more of a matte finish after the post press, but it has stretch capabilities trending towards DTF. So again, I'll get into that a little bit more but if you're looking for something a little bit more stretchy, Select Ultra Bright would be the one that I would recommend.
Perfect, thank you.
Let me finish the slide here. So with regard to white overprint, the RIP program will intelligently decide where to put white. So it's not going to do a flood of 300% that you see on some competing models who don't use RIPs. What we'll do is we'll take the image, the RIP will look at it and say, oh, here's a dark color like a dark red or a black or a brown. That's got enough toner density that I don't need to put white on top of it. But here's your cyan, here's your yellow. I'm going to put more white on that rather than the dark product. So you're going to save up to 50% in white toner printing and white toner usage, I should say, just by using a RIP. Now, of course, white is also used in spot or completely white colors. That's different. You have white spot images or spot colors. In other words, part of your image has white in it. And that is separate from the white overprint, but they work in tandem with each other. With iColor printers only, we have a patent on this. By swapping the position of the white toner cartridge in the printer, you can either print white as an overprint, which is used for basically any transfer that you're doing in mirror, but you can also print white as an underprint for right side reading on clear or dark material. So I'm going to turn back my screen, and I want to show you something here on black paper. This is what happens if you print on black paper with color without white underneath. And you can do this with any laser printer that you might have at home. And you'll see that it's very muddy, it's not vibrant, because you're basically seeing the paper through the image. But what happens when you print white undercolor is all the images pop. And this is the same exact image printed on the same printer, one using white and one using CMYK. And it really speaks volumes to what you can do with these printers with a white underprint.
And Craig, I was just going to show, we have an example of a shirt that's white toner that's been printed onto that dark shirt, which again is something, if folks are familiar with sublimation, they can't do it with sublimation.
Yep. Okay, so we're going to get into a little bit more what your question was before. What makes iColor printers different than some of the other white toner printers out there is we have the most opaque and vibrant white toner formulation available. It is fluorescent, although you won't really use that unless you have a black light, and that gets into going to some of our other kits as well. But our white toner is a Uninet unique formulation that is vibrant and opaque. The ability to print overprint and underprint in the same machine. The specialty kits, what I wanted to talk about as well. So you can take, let's say it's an iColor 560, and I'll get into the models in a moment. The 560 is the smaller letter size or A4 size printer, but it is completely swappable with different types of toner kits to allow you to do different projects and basically convert your whole printer into something else. So it comes configured as a white toner printer. You take out all of the toner cartridges that it comes with and you swap it for, let's say, sublimation. Now you have dye sublimation cartridges in your machine, and you're now printing onto regular copy paper, not onto specialty type of paper that you would use with a sawgrass. And you can print and press just like any other dye sublimation printer out there, just by swapping cartridges. The advantages is that the toner cartridges do not expire. Your sawgrass cartridges expire within a year. The yield is much, much higher depending on your printer. In the case of a 560, the yield is 7,000 pages for a sublimation cartridge that's not going to expire. That speaks volumes. And the fact that it's toner, not ink, means you're not flushing. You're not wasting toner or ink when you do that with your sawgrass or other type of ink-based sublimation printer. So every gram of toner is utilized. It's not wasted. Swap again. Now you have fluorescent colors. So when you use your fluorescent toner kit, anything you print should be nice bright colors, printed onto a dark shirt or a black shirt. And now anything that is exposed to black light will glow. So these kids have these black light parties or birthday parties like that. These shirts are a big hit in those kinds of situations. And again, just by swapping cartridges back and forth, you basically have converted your machine to something else. We also offer clear toner, security toner, and metallics like gold and silver for use when you're printing on paper or water slide or things like that. The gold and silver cartridges are not for transfer printing because they take the place of the white cartridge in the machine, but we offer gold and silver types of transfer paper if you need that. Our printers come with a true black cartridge as well, so that if you just want to print regular CMYK projects, Microsoft Word, kids' homework, anything you normally print with a laser printer, you can do with our white toner printers as well. So you don't need to buy another printer. Everything can be done with these printers. Every printer ships with a RIP. It's called the iColor Pro RIP and Smart Cut. And I'll get into Smart Cut as well, but basically that allows you to split your image in half. If you have a larger image and you're printing it on a smaller printer, to allow you to print a tabloid or tabloid plus size graphic using a smaller type of printer. Lastly, 5 printers in one. So it's underprint, overprint, fluorescent, sublimation, CMYK, clear, security, and metallic. And this is a representation of the Swiss Army knife of the type of printer that we have. Go ahead.
Okay, Craig, we had a few questions here, and we've got some, I know some folks are asking some technical questions.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna save those for the end, because Craig may address some of those, or answer some of those as he's going through his presentation. But Craig, we do have a few questions here that I think are outside of your presentation. First one, someone asked, is the printer portable, especially with the sublimation toners installed?
Yes, totally portable. It depends on what printer you're talking about. We have the 560, which is a very, very portable machine. And then I'm going to get into the printer models in a moment, but then you get larger. So if you want to print tabloid or larger, we have our iColor 650. That gets a little bit bigger, but certainly portable. And then you have the iColor 800, which is our biggest system. Yes, it's portable, but it is heavy and it's big. So I don't know if I would transport that from place to place, but certainly this machine, the iColor 560, you could have your 4 cartridges in one box and your printer in another, and it's much less cumbersome than bringing a heat press from place to place as well. I think this printer is about 68, 70 pounds.
And Craig, to that point, we know that we've had customers who have purchased the iColor from us and who have said that they take it on the road with them. It's a pretty durable printer. They'll take it to fairs or to performances and that sort of thing, and sell shirts on the spot, which is great because they don't have to pre-print a ton of stuff. You're not like screen printing where you've got to take a bunch of pre-printed shirts with you, and then if you don't sell them, you're kind of on the hook for them. So we know that there are customers who are doing that.
I think the only limitation of doing that is you got to make sure you have adequate power, because your heat press and your printer is going to take a lot of power.
Correct.
That's for sure.
Correct. Craig, we had one other question here in this, and again, there are some more technical questions. If Craig doesn't address them through his presentation, we'll get to those at the end. We're not purposely ignoring you, but we did have another question. With toner transfer on hard substrates, what kind of performance can I expect to get, say, for a small outdoor sign?
A small outdoor sign, you're really not going to do a heat transfer. I mean, I guess you could, but normally with outdoor signs, like printing banners and things like that, you might want to print directly to the paper. Now, toner by its very nature is waterproof. So if you're printing on a substrate that can handle that kind of outdoor, the elements, whether it be rain or wind or sunlight, they can last a long time. It all depends on the type of media you're printing to. So if you want to have a sticker paper that has a strong outdoor adhesive, like our label paper, we have both clear and white paper, which has a very aggressive adhesive, and that will last quite a while outside, for sure.
And just so we'll show here, these are just some examples of the toner heat transfer on some hard substrates. This is a wood-like product. Again, really nice color reproduction there. So, all right, Craig, I'm going to let you get back at it. I'll jump in if we get any more questions.
All right, let's continue here. Again, we'll just go quickly because I did touch a lot onto our specialty toner kits. You could expand your machine beyond traditional CMYK, easily swap back and forth between toner and the regular toner and our specialty kits. No cleaning, no priming. Again, dye sublimation, fluorescent, clear, security toner, and gold and silver toner. Uninet's protected by a bunch of patents, and we do this because we're, we want to protect our investment here. You can look at all of our patents. It's all public information regarding how we design these printers and all of the accessories and papers and things like that as well, and all of our trademarks, and there's more to come as well. Let's get into the overview of the printers. The iColor 560, which I've mentioned, is our letter size A4 white toner printer, and it features a single toner drum cartridge. So it's just one cartridge you pull out and a cartridge to install. It's by far our most popular machine, probably because of the price point. It comes now with some training. Uninet offers our white toner master class, and now it is included with the printer, as well as a quick start video to get you set up. The master class is a 6.5-hour class divided into about 52 different segments. It takes you from soup to nuts on how to set up the machine, how to use the RIP, how to do transfers, file types, and how to save things, and talking about the business of selling shirts and design, and it gets into everything. So it comes with the 560. The 650 is the middle of the road machine, where now you're getting larger. You're getting into an A3 tabloid plus size type of machine. It accepts 11.8 inch width paper maximum, but it can do banners up to 52 inches long. Now, this is a 2-cartridge system where there's a drum unit and a toner unit that locks into it. So the consumables are a little bit bigger, but the yield is higher. The 560 has a max yield of 7,000 pages, and the 650 has a yield of 10,000 pages. And again, this is all 5% coverage. So when you say, oh, I didn't get 7,000 pages out of my printer, just look at what you're printing, because typically graphics could be 25, 40% coverage. So it's all relative to what you're printing. And that sometimes that could be a little bit of a confusion point for new customers who are not familiar with how yield is measured. The iColor 800 is our biggest machine, featuring 12.5-inch width, and that's really designed for production level printing. Now, I will say the 800 does not do any of the toner kits I mentioned. The 800 is for people who want to do just white toner printing. It is locked into a overprint type of scenario. It's set up in such a way where you can't swap cartridges. So that is for somebody who's looking to do high output white toner only. You can find a lot more information on our website as well. I'm sure on Johnson Plastics website they have all the details too. And you can get a little bit more information about that, as well as comparisons between the machines if you are interested in them. Let's talk about transfer paper. I'm going to breeze through it because there's a lot here. And again, if you have any questions, just let us know. There are 2 types of textile transfer paper, basically a 1-step and a 2-step. A 1-step paper means you print and press right to the garment without applying an adhesive. You get a lot less washes out of it. It's about 15 washes on the average. It's ideal for low wear types of situations like birthdays, family vacations, and things like that. And because there's no adhesive, you really should use lighter colored fabrics and textiles, because the darker you get, the more you'll see through it, and the more muddy or less vivid the image will become. But they're cheaper, and that's why people might go with it, because you'll pay, I think it's 85 cents a sheet on an A4 type size for a 1-step. And believe it or not, we do move a lot of the 1-step because there are certain applications that people want. Now, if you want higher wash cycle, more vibrancy, better longevity, then you're going to move to the 2-step. And we have basically 4 types of paper out there. The most popular is the standard. That's what I recommend people getting started with. It's the easiest to use. It's the most popular. And then, as I mentioned, the Select Ultra Bright is a very good alternative, where both the standard and the Ultra Bright have a very opaque B sheet. So that means when you apply your adhesive to your transfer and you press it to your shirt, even a black shirt, you cannot see the color of the shirt through the adhesive. And that's what provides most of your vibrancy. When you get into the 1-steps, because there's no adhesive there, there's very little to block out. You put white toner there, and that does a little bit of the work, but there's only so much it can do without having some physical limitation of blocking out the substrate. The Select paper, as opposed to the Select Ultra Bright, is a very, very easy to use and least expensive 2-step paper that we carry. It's not quite as vivid because the B sheet is less opaque. But people like that because of the price point and the ease of use. And if you're looking for the highest quality type of 2-step paper, go for the premium paper. It presses at a lower temperature than all the other papers. Less time to apply the adhesive. So typically you're applying adhesive at about 2 minutes. The premium applies adhesive in 30 seconds. It presses at a lower temperature. Typically you're pressing at 310 or so. Premium's at 250 degrees. And the nice thing about premium is that your reds and your hard to get colors, reds and cyans are typically the harder colors to really match. The premium paper does a great job of color matching, and it's very vibrant, and it almost feels like screen printing with it as well. So when you get an iColor printer, you should also ask for a sample pack. Sample packs are available both in hard surface and textiles. And basically we give you 5 sheets of every type of paper we sell. So start off with the standard paper, which most packages will have, and get yourself a sample pack. Once you learn the process, dig into that sample pack and see if there's another paper that you might like better than what you have. You might not. It all is circumstantial to your project and how you're working things in your budget and things like that. But it's always good to have options. We have several different types of. Oh, you have a question on that?
Yeah, we have a couple quick questions here, Craig, and then let's get back to talking about the papers because there is some interest about that here. The first one that we have goes back to the toner sublimation, and they wanted to know how does that image compare to, say, an ink-based sublimation print? Is it comparable? Is it, I guess?
Yeah,
I know it's
it
kind of
depends on what
subjective.
you're printing. It depends on what you're
Right.
printing. Non-transfer related at all. The differences between ink-based printers and laser or toner-based printers is that ink-related printers will always have higher resolution. What does that mean? If you're printing photorealistic images, pictures, your ink-based systems will have higher resolution. That's the advantage of Sawgrass and things like that. But if you're printing vector-based or cartoony types of graphics, you'd be hard-pressed to tell the difference between them.
Excellent. Thank you. And then a second question, and this was a great question. I love this question. So somebody was asking, with the toner sublimation, you can essentially gang print. You can put a bunch of similar transfers on the same sheet of paper, but can you do that with the heat transfer as well? Or is that something where you need to really just do one per print and move along?
Well, what you want to do is gang your images up on a sheet. So if you're printing, let's say on an A3 or tabloid size piece of paper, don't waste it by just printing a small image on there. The RIP allows you to what we call nest, okay? So take all your images and gang them up on the sheet. Do not waste an inch. And that's the way that you're going to maximize your space on it. Now you could save all of these transfers. You can either save them married or unmarried. Put them in a drawer, in room temperature, keep the humidity steady. We want 45 to 60% humidity in a room generally. So you can either leave them married or unmarried and they'll last, no problem.
And Craig, that's whether it's sublimation or heat transfer, correct?
Oh, that's correct, sure.
Okay, perfect, thank you. We'll get to some other.
Nope, I lost your audio there.
You know why? That's because I was
There you
talking after I hit the mute button.
Okay, no problem. We'll
That
continue.
happens. I said we'll get to some of these other questions here in a moment. We'll let Craig finish up talking about the transfer papers.
All righty.
Thank you.
In addition to textile, we have hard surface paper. Generally, I recommend our general use paper, which is called hard surface premium, and it's ideal for pretty much anything: ceramic, glass, wood, metal, acrylic, whatever. We do have specific use types of paper generally for ceramic only, wood and leather, metallic types of paper. But I would say if you're not exactly sure what you're going to be doing and you kind of want a general use, just go for the hard surface premium paper. Before I mentioned about some of the other specialty papers, which will be listed here. So we have water slide, what we call aqua clear, and this is for items you can't put in a heat press. That's not heat based. So like the inside of a bowl or a candle, or a lot of guys use a water slide and aqua clear for models, model cars and things like that. So it's ideal for that kind of thing. We have two different types of tattoo paper, a 2-step and a 1-step. The 2-step paper is fantastic because you actually use a heat press to marry a B sheet to it. And when you peel that, you cut out your tattoos. So let's say it's all ganged up and you got 20 tattoos on a sheet. After you apply it to your skin, you put a wet rag on there for about a minute and you hold it down to your skin. And what happens is the background completely disappears. So there's no background whatsoever on our 2-step paper. The 1-step paper doesn't use a heat press, but you have to trim it pretty close because you will see a background. But of course, it's a little bit less expensive. So there's options there too, based on your budget. We carry a bunch of different hot stamping foils, which is nothing new. There's thousands of different colors out there. So you can hot stamp directly onto your transfer if you want to add that look to it. We have metallic, like rose gold and silver, for cardboard paper and wood. And of course, for your textiles, we have a bunch of different colored paper, which we call Presto. and that's gold, silver, blue, red, all these really rich colors that your printer may not be able to print. And it's kind of like a vinyl alternative as well. And we have a ton of videos and instructions on our website about Presto paper. I especially like the Presto Ultra Bright paper, which is available in gold and silver only. It's super stretchy like the Select Ultra Bright, and the silver and gold is really, really shiny, and it really sticks and lasts a long time. Banner paper for our 650 and our 800. Window cling paper, sticker media, label media, which I said has a very strong adhesive on it. You print right to a magnet, throw it up on your fridge. And then of course you could print the generic media that we don't sell, like regular types of paper, black paper, plastics, transparencies, things like that. Talk about the benefits of the RIP software. So I talked about it before. Do we have a question before I continue?
Yeah, real quick before you hop into the RIP software, we did have a question about the paper. Someone was asking, is the premium paper better than the ultra paper in terms of color reproduction?
I would say yes, the color reproduction on premium is better, but the Select Ultra Bright paper will be a bit more stretchy. So there's never one that I could say, oh, this paper is definitely better than that one, because there's going to be some opinion based on that. The premium is the highest quality, but is it right for your project? I can't tell you that for sure. That's why you always want to get that sample kit and test them all out. Use the same graphic, put it on the same shirt, and compare them all side by side and see which one you like better.
So it's really application dependent.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you have people that are dedicated to Select media, and then the next person says, oh, I don't like the Select, I like the standard. Everybody's got their own, and I won't argue with them, because their specific application, it's working for them, great, keep going.
Awesome. I know we had a few questions about the RIP software. We're gonna let you talk about it, and if we don't, we'll get to those at the end of the webinar here. So
sure. So
thanks.
Benefits of RIP, it allows you to have multi-layer printing. Okay, so this allows you to put white on top or below the image all in one pass. Without a RIP, you wouldn't be able to do it in one pass. You'd have to feed the paper in for color and then feed it again for white, and that's really never works, because the alignment is never the same when you refeed a piece of paper. So that's why you always want one pass printing. The RIP will also help you with basic editing, such as color removal and color swapping. It could change the density of white applied. We typically set it for textile paper for 200 or 210%, but there may be instances where you want less or more white, which you certainly do. We talked about the smart application of white toner, only where it's needed, using the default settings. And putting more white, for example, allows you to use a one-step paper on what we call medium colored shirts, like a baby blue or a gray. We also load all of the color profiles for all of the iColor paper into the RIP, because you can't just use a one-size-fits-all type of print mode and call them print mode. So if you use standard paper, you want to use the standard print mode. If you're using Select Ultra Bright, you have to switch that. The heat of diffuser, the way the colors are laid down, it's all different, and it all happens behind the scenes. So although, yes, you could probably use other brands of paper, we highly recommend you stay within the iColor or Uninet ecosystem for paper, because everything's loaded, everything's tested, it's all done for you, and we're always tweaking. So every month, if you already own an iColor printer, every month go in and update your print modes, because we may have snuck something in there. You're not alerted to it. So I always say first of the month, update your print modes and see. You probably won't see anything noticeable, but there's always tweaks in the background. The RIP is also integrated with SmartCut, and I'll get into that in the next slide. Plus, you also have a cost estimator. So you put the price of the cartridges that you paid into the RIP, and when you load the image, size it up, it's going to tell you exactly what it's going to cost to print in terms of toner and consumable usage. And most of all, you apply rasterization. So the last thing you want is a big, thick, square JPEG with a background as an image that you're going to print. Less is more with white toner printing. You want to have as much negative space as possible. You don't want to have any thick images there. Like 3 fingers should be the maximum width of anything on a white toner print. If not, then you can apply rasterization, which may apply uniform lines or uniform dots into your image to kind of break things up and allow it to wash and stretch better. And that's really the main thing for rasterization. You can do that in Photoshop if you're good at it by rasterizing certain elements, but the RIP will do kind of a uniform situation. You can also apply transparency effects into your, if you're designing your graphic in Photoshop, partial transparency, the RIP will see partial transparency and convert that to a raster depending on how much percentage you've applied to your partial transparency. Do we have more questions on the RIP that I didn't cover? Let's move to SmartCut. SmartCut comes.
Yep, I think we're good at the moment. Let me take a quick look for questions here. Oh, yeah, we did have one question, Craig, about RIP. Do you need the RIP for the sublimation toners?
You don't need it, but I suggest you use it. The reason why is because there is a profile that we build in. So using the RIP, let me say, if you wanted to print sublimation without the RIP, no problem. We have a standalone profile. And what the profile does is help you correct your color accuracy. If you use the profile, your colors will be more accurate, but at the expense of some vibrancy. If you don't use the profile, your colors may not be exact, but you're going to get higher vibrancy. And the RIP has this profile built in, plus you have the option to manipulate colors and things like that. So I say it's easier to use the RIP when printing with sublimation, but it is not required.
And then we have one other kind of software-based question, Craig. Somebody asked, is there a way to save the settings on an image after they rasterize the image so that they can just keep getting the same results every time?
Yeah, what happens is the image goes down to your Q bank at the bottom. It's reserved, sorry, it's called a reserve bank, and you can save those indefinitely. So all you have to do is drag that back up, and everything you did to that can be saved. You can also save projects within the RIP and bring them up later. So there's two ways to save in there.
Perfect, thank you.
Moving to SmartCut. Basically, SmartCut allows you to take your smaller printer, like your A4 letter size printer, and allow you to print tabloid or larger size graphics. What it does is it splits your image, it analyzes it and splits the image in the most logical way to be like a jigsaw puzzle around certain edges and colors. If you split it straight down the middle, you will see that seam every time. But the way that we split is that when you split it around these edges and colors and then further knock out a color, like let's say you're going to knock the black out after you split, then you kind of have like a floating seam that you'll never see. Really works well. So if you have your occasional oversize and you had your heart set on the 560, great, go for it. But what I tell people who are considering either the smaller or the bigger machine is think about how many larger prints you're going to do. If that number is 50% or more, you may want to consider the larger one, because although you can achieve it with SmartCut, you may not want to do the SmartCut process every single time because it's 2 prints, 2 presses, and all of that. Occasionally great, and then you just have to decide which is going to be the better machine based on your budget. In addition to splitting, which is the main purpose of SmartCut, we've also integrated selective masking tool, which allows you to take a certain color or a certain shape and rasterize only that portion of the graphic, which is a little bit more specific than what the RIP can do. So if you have an image with just a red portion, you can say, okay, take everything that's red and apply rasterization dots to just that area. So that's a cool feature. And it's also got a real preview tool that puts your image onto the color of the shirt you want to apply it to. So for instance, if you want to go onto a black shirt, it'll take your image and put it on a black shirt, but not just the black color. You zoom in and you see the fibers of the shirt. It really looks like it's on the shirt. And that gives you a great idea of, will this image work on black, or is it better on blue or yellow or whatever? It just gives you a little bit of insight without having to print and press it yourself. All of our machines come with SmartCut and ProRip. I'm going to talk about some tips for white toner transfers. Training, number 1. White toner masterclass, I think, is key to your success. It's going to like I said, take you soup to nuts on how to do every part of the process to make you successful. There's a book called Artwork for White Toner Printers, and that's helping you design your artwork optimized for white toner printing. It just gives you tips and tricks on how to do that, and it's a pretty thick book too. It comes in both hard copy and PDF version. The White Toner Beginner's Notebook ships with all iColor printers. Gives you some tips and tricks in there, but it also gives you a lot of room to write your settings down. So if this particular setting worked for you with this particular paper, write it down. And you go refer to that book every time you do that particular project, and you won't forget anything. Of course, the White Toner Transfer Support Group on Facebook, I think we're almost at 18,000 members now. There's a huge resource of users there that you can bounce off any project or any idea that you have there, and you'll have real world answers. And of course, the iColor website for written and video instructions on everything that you might need as well. Good heat press is vital, right? This is the linchpin of your operation. So if you have a cheap press that you're not sure of the pressure, you're not sure if the heat is accurate, you might fail, okay? I'm not telling you to go out and buy a $2,600 Stahl's press, but make sure you get something that is of quality, is accurate, you know where you are with pressure. And I mean, the Stahl's is really a good press. I consider the Geonite and the Instapresses to be second and third in the industry as well. We like swingaways rather than clamshells because of the way they close, but there are many people that are successful with cheaper presses and clamshell presses. You just have to know how to use it. It may take a little bit longer for you to dial in your process because all of the testing that we do was done on the Fusion hot trolleys. Dye migration. This is something important to just touch on because sometimes when people press images onto a dark or black polyester shirt, they don't realize that that shirt was made through the process of dye sublimation. So what happens when you heat it again by pressing your transfer to that shirt? You're essentially opening it up and allowing the gases to resublimate. And what happens is if you press it too high of a temperature for too long, the black of the dye, the black of the dye that is released from the shirt can stain your B sheet. So let's say you're doing an all white image, like a lifeguard image or something like that, and you press it at 310 for 30 seconds and you say, wait, how come my white is now gray? You're suffering from dye migration. So the tip there is to press at lower temperature, typically 260 degrees. Instead of 30 seconds, press it for 20 seconds and cool it immediately. You can certainly do that with all of the two-step papers, and then you'll avoid dye migration. And that's only the case with dark polyester shirts. Tips to increase brightness is your press temperature. Like I said, you can go down in temperature when you press the shirt. So let's say you're talking about our iColor standard paper. You typically press to the adhesive at 310 degrees for 2 minutes. But then once you press to the shirt, you have some flexibility. You don't have to press to the shirt at 310. You could go down to 260, even 250 degrees. That's if it's a delicate material and you don't want to scorch it, or if you're trying to maintain vibrancy. The hotter it is, the longer you press, the more vibrancy you might lose. So I always press it like 265, 270. 10 degrees here or there is okay, but typically press to your shirt or your garment at a lower temperature to maintain vibrancy. Also in the RIP, if you go into your settings, you can lower the brightness and increase the saturation, and that will help maintain or increase vibrancy as well. The peeling technique is key, especially with the iColor standard. You got to make sure it's completely cool on the shirt before you start peeling, and then you peel tightly, like you press down and roll. Make sure that you don't lose those little pieces or those little parts of your image that could pop up. And this takes a little bit of practice. You just nice and slow and low, peel it off, and especially at the end, go real slow so that you don't lose that end part of it. The training wheels concept, in the RIP, you can put a black square around your entire image. So it's like a sacrificial part of the image that you start peeling. So it gives you kind of like a starting ramp, so that when you get to the actual image, you don't lose it. General advice for white toner printing: ensure your bottom plate is hot before you start. A lot of times when people start, they don't heat that bottom plate. Keep the press closed for 5 minutes, because if you do your A and B step on a cold bottom platen, you won't get a clean marry. A lot of times the transfer will go over to the B sheet. It's very typical. We see it all the time. Lack of heat. Rasterize any part of your image that's wider than 3 fingers to avoid cracking, to give yourself a little bit more stretch tolerance, to give a better wash. Always post-press your shirt. After you peel it, press it again. If not, it may fall apart in the wash after 1 or 2 washes. You could do that with craft paper, and we also sell something called a T-seal, which pushes the transfer down further into the fibers of the shirt, increasing your durability. Especially in the winter, when you receive your media from FedEx, UPS, let it sit a couple hours, overnight if possible. Let it acclimatize, because there could be static, there could be humidity, it's too cold, and that's not going to be good for your transfers. Keep your humidity 45 to 60%. Keep your B sheet stored in a provided Ziploc bag and silica pack that we provide to keep it out of the humidity. Too low, too high, no good for B sheets or your adhesive sheets. And then with your A sheets, sometimes they're static. So you want to fan those out, make sure they're not sticking to each other to avoid a jam. Do we have more questions on white toner? Because that's it for white toner. I'm going to talk quickly about our label printer and then some DTF.
No, I think we're good for white toner on the moment. And I didn't want to say, I know we're bumping up against the 3 o'clock. We said we'd be done at 3. I know Craig's got a lot of great information. We still have a few more minutes. If you can stick around with us, that'd be great, because Craig's going to go over a few more things. But if not, if you've got another appointment at 3 o'clock you got to get to, just know that we will be sending out an email after the webinar with a link to the entire webinar. So if there's something you've got to get going and you can't stick around with us for a few extra minutes, don't worry about it. We'll send you that link, and you'll have the complete webinar in a video that you can reference at any time. So, but I think we're good, Craig. We'll let you keep rolling.
All right, perfect. So I'm going to talk quickly, even though this is kind of out of the realm of what we were talking about with transfer printing. Johnson Plastics also carries the Uninet iColor 250. This is a very unique label and sticker printer, where it not only prints on a roll, but it also cuts your design, die cutting. So I just want to share my screen a second and kind of show you what happens here. When you print, let's say you print images like this. This is one of our sample sheets. It will also cut it out so that you can just apply from there.
We've got a few here. That one's just the label, and then on a nice little clear tumbler there.
We also have gold and silver options as far as media is concerned. We also carry a frosted clear as well. And this is kind of something that fits into the wheelhouse of a lot of people that are doing transfer printing, because there's a lot of demand for stickers and labels. We have a bunch of different types of media available, like paper and BOP, which is a synthetic material that holds up better. It doesn't rip as easily. Like I said, the gold, silver, and clear, and a few others as well. Johnson Plastics carries this model, so if there's of interest, please contact your rep over there. Let's get into DTF. I'm going to go quickly. Please stop me with any questions. Like I said in the beginning, DTF and DTG are very similar in the way that they print. They often share a print engine and a print head, and people are moving to this because they're looking to control the process themselves, and they want to print transfers that they're going to sell. DTF equipment allows users to produce the exact number of sheets needed, whether they're making their own shirts or selling transfers. DTF is very low cost per print. More than 50% of users sell transfers and don't actually make the garments. And DTF is the best entry point into wholesale transfer production, makes it possible to compete as such from your home or office. Benefits, like again, very low cost per page. Transfers are very stretchable and durable. Less prep needed. So in other words, you don't have to worry about rasterization as much because this stuff stretches like crazy. So negative space is not as important. Of course, if you're printing on, let's say you're pressing onto a black shirt and you have black colors in your graphic, you still want to knock that color out because it's going to look weird if you print black onto black. So always let the color of the shirt represent that specific color in your graphic. Even if it's red, knock red out. If you're going onto a red shirt, that's basic stuff. Do that with white toner and DTF. Very simple application. Once you have a cured transfer sheet, you're basically pressing for 15 seconds at 310 and you're peeling warm. You can just let it sit for about a minute and peel. Then you just hit it with a post press and you're done. You don't need a crazy heat press for this. You could use a clamshell or cheap press because you're really not so concerned with pressure, and temperature can vary a little bit as well. So those are definite benefits surrounding DTF. But what to expect with it? It's not for the infrequent user. You got to run the printer every day, every other day. Leaving it idle for more than a weekend can cause clogging. You want to make sure that this thing is maintained and you're using it. That's why white toner printers are ideal for occasional use, because you're never going to have those issues. DTF involves inks, chemicals, and powders. You have to have ample ventilation and safety. Climate and humidity is even more important with DTF. And you have to have vents, and you just got to get that dust out of there. What happens is when the powder is curing, it's outgassing. So you want to make sure you're not breathing that in. But if that is okay for you and you know the pitfalls of it and you still want to go DTF, I think it's a great solution. We carry 4 different models, and I'll go through them really quickly. The DTF 100 is a cut sheet model. It accepts up to 13-inch wide sheets. This is something for your entry-level user. It's got white circulation to prevent clogging of the white ink, which is the most problematic of all the inks. A little bit slower. You print about 8 A3 pages an hour, but the resolution is very, very high, and your graphics will look crisp every time. With this machine, you manually apply your adhesive and you put it in your heating station. All of our systems ship with a starter bundle, including the DTF version of ProRip. We give you training. There's a master class for the DTF 100, followed by a 30-minute Q&A session with a live tech to answer any questions that you have, plus all Uninet technical support behind that. We give you ink, transfer sheets, adhesive powder, maintenance solution, and accessories up front with the machine. So all you have to do is get the machine and the heating station and have a heat press, and you're off and running. The second model is the DTF 1000. This is a roll-fed machine, also 13 inches wide, a little bit faster than the 100, and it's good for batch printing. You still apply a manual adhesive situation, but we are working on an automated optional powder and curing system, which we hope to have by the middle of this year. But right now it is manually, you manually apply the adhesive, and it again comes with the same starter bundle as well. If you're looking for something higher end and more automated, go with the 3300. 13-inch width again, but it's got a dual print head system, so it's going to be pretty fast, 38 square foot an hour. Uses a better print head, and this is best for large batch printing. So basically it prints, it goes into the automated station, which automatically applies your adhesive, shakes off the excess, and cures it, and finally rewinds it. So it's basically unattended. Again, starter bundle with all the accessories that you need to get started. If you're really into it, you go with the 6000. This is a 24-inch wide, double head, upgradable to 4 heads. Really, you pound them out this way. If you're really looking into a high volume, high quality system, this is where you're going to be. So there's 4 total models here available. Each great model, you just have to look at what fits for you. The 100 and the 1000 obviously are the 2 hotter sellers, followed by the 3300, and finally, if you have a large system, a warehouse, something like that, the 6000 might be good for you as well. What's not included? PC, the heat station, the heat press. You need a humidifier to keep your humidity up, air purifier, fume extractors, and then additional ink and accessories and things like that. So DTF is really the hot thing right now, but again, you have to know when it's right for you, and you have to really decide, is white toner better or is DTF better? So that's the battle, you know. And if you ever had any questions regarding the two, certainly could reach out to me, reach out to your reps at Johnson Plastic. There's a lot to consider, but it can be right for you if you're ready to accept it. And that's all I have. Your two reps from Johnson Plastics are available to help you, and it's been a pleasure talking to everybody here. I hope that I didn't go too quickly, but everybody got enough information that they can be dangerous.
Craig, thank you so much. And again, if anybody has any additional questions, let us know. Talk to Carla, talk to Melanie, give Craig a call. You know, we work really closely with our friends over at Uninet, so we want to help you out. There's a lot of information here. Craig went through a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of great information. We had so many good questions. We'll have that presentation, so you'll have it. You'll have a copy of the PowerPoint. You'll have a copy of the video and email in the next 24 to 48 hours, so you can take a look at that, go back, reabsorb everything we went over today, take a look at some of those samples. I'm trying to see if we have any other last minute questions, Craig, that we can answer here, but I think we caught everything. Somebody's looking for some info on a DTF printer, so we'll make sure we pass that information along.
Sure.
And I think we're in good shape.
Very
Craig,
good.
thank you so much for taking time out of your day today to talk to us and to our customers.
My pleasure.
And we really appreciate everything you went through.
Sure. And if anybody requests that PowerPoint, it's free to send it out to whoever needs it. And I'm always available to answer any questions that anybody might have as well.
Awesome. Well, Craig, thank you again so much for joining us today. And again, if anybody has any questions, just reach out to either Craig or myself or us at JPP, and we'd be happy to help you out. Thanks again, everyone. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you soon. Thanks,
Thank you.
Craig.